Yo, okay. Welcome to the YouTube channel, chat. Today I'm gonna be going over how I mark my zones basically on a daily basis, like on the 15-minute, how I just find accurate areas of support and resistance I can go off of. But first, I'm just gonna start with a little trade recap. So, yeah, just gonna do a trade recap for yesterday, March 4th. So going into the day, basically we had this pre-market high that I was watching for us to break out of, and this light green zone. You can see we were bouncing this light green zone at the start of the day. Eventually, it ended up breaking through, and this was like a perfect trend, really good trend. And the pullback was really clean, and we got a perfect 13 EMA retest that I look for after we got the close above the zone on the 15-minute. Bounced off the 13 EMA a little bit, and I entered on this candle when showed confirmation. And yeah, I set my TP at the high day zone, and unfortunately got stopped out on this. Not get stopped. I got stopped out on this candle close. Usually, um, yeah, and actually, I'm really happy with how this trade went because I took a very small, like, it's ended my winning streak. Like, I've been on a fat winning streak. I haven't taken a loss in a fat minute, but I'm glad to take a loss on this trade. This is one of the setups where you kind of just have to learn to be you have to be glad to lose money on setups like this because it was just like really good. It's picture perfect, everything I look for. Um, Bouncing a zone plus the EMA at the same time. Beautiful. Unfortunately, just ended up not working out, and I took a pretty small loss on this one. It was really only like a zero point 0.4 R loss, compared to like what I made on the second trade as well. But yeah, it just perfect 13 EMA retest, everything I'm looking for. And then later, what happened? Yeah, later we broke above the high, but you know, there was no 15-minute close above the high, and also it's only one candle. Trend wasn't strong enough yet. Obviously, it's not gonna work. At that point, this was very like choppy trend as well, so I'm just was waiting for trend to break out a little bit. Um, we were finding a lot of support on the 48 EMA, which is usually I found to be like a very good sign. Like something's good, like something good about to happen when we're bouncing off the 48. Usually that shit makes a pretty nice move later and gets a good retest on the 13. So yeah, I waited for this kind of like trend line to break until that happened. Looking for my second trade of the day, potentially we broke it here, and as you can see, this was like the 15-minute candle close above this high day level that I was looking for. Confirmed everything I needed to know pretty much. Um, And yeah, as soon as that happened, I was waiting for a 13 EMA pullback. I would enter if we got the pullback here, but we didn't. Showed a little more upside continuation. It's always pretty good. Um, yeah, entered on this 13 EMA retest here after it bounced and hit the 13 EMA, and then you know bounced a little bit. It actually had to fully retest this high day zone, which was pretty picture perfect. We always want to see that high day support. So like I was in drawdown for a little bit, but then it ended up shooting back up. And on this trade, I actually targeted the high of day. Usually I go for the high day zone, but in this specific case, something discretionary was telling me like, yeah, we're definitely hitting the high of day here. Well, not definitely, but like I felt it was very probable. Just because this wick, like it just felt better risk to reward, and it made more sense for me to go for the high of day on this trade. Um, Also in line with the risk reward. So I don't even know the last time I targeted the high day instead of just like taking profit at the high day zone like I usually do 95% of the time. But in this case, it just was like I'm going for the high day. A little discretionary move. Ended up working out. It ended up only on NQ or MNQ, which I got like filled on. I pretty much timed it perfectly. I think it went one or two ticks above high day and then went down. Beautiful. Chef's kiss trade. Like both of these trades were very good in my opinion. Very nice 13 EMA retest. One worked, got a nice R. one didn't work, and I got stopped out quickly under the 13 MA in the zone. So it's like, yeah, definitely completely made up for that loss. I made like 2 times or 2.5 times what I lost on the loss on this trade. So very good. Love that setup. And then after that, we just fell off. Um, Nothing else was really notable. IWM was chopping in zones all day, and obviously this was like too early or too choppy to take. Spy was moving a lot slower than QQQ. You can kind of tell like this was a nicer uptrend than this was. Barely even broke the high a day, honestly. Like we just kind of had this resistance all day and never broke above. But yeah, Spy also had a retest here at the same time, but I just took QQ instead. Both would have been losses if you took this one, but this one actually never showed confirmation off the 13 EMA though. But yeah, so that's that. Now I'm gonna get into that 6 minutes of recap. Now I'm gonna get into the actual trade or how I mark my zones. So I mark my zones out on the 15 minute. I'm gonna go. Actually, how should I do this? I'm gonna go through basically how I mark my zones for the previous day first. So first of all, I have two different zone types. As you can see, the white zones are for previous day high and previous day low zones. Those are going to be the most important ones that you have to pay attention to, like the most accurate and strong sort of support and resistance you're going to get. Um, so yeah, very nice. As you can see, we had this high day zone, and how I mark my zones is pretty simple most of the time, just from the high of day to the highest body close, which in this case was here. Um, so yeah, that, and then if we have light green zones, that's gonna be intraday support. So not the high or the lower day zone, but it's gonna be support and resistance in between there. So like for example, we had a move down here, but then we pop back up. So this support is telling me like, yeah, we have a lot of support in this area. So basically just marked it from this body close to here. You could also do it like this. It might be actually a little more accurate because this is the lowest body close, the low of that move. So yeah, and then you can see it's basically the same here. Lowest body close to the low here. So you're just trying to find support. Like when we made a big move up the prior day, you're looking for areas where we found support throughout that day, and you're just marking that out. So in that case, I see support here, I see support here, and I see support here. In this case, this would be like resistance. This was a resistance light green zone. Once again, it's just from the highest body close to the high. That was resistance we gapped above, never retested. So kept that in. That's just a brief overview of how I do it. But now I'm gonna get into marking the zones for all of them for today, which is going to be the beef of the content. But yeah, so first off, the first thing I do is always delete zones that have been ran through. So for example, any zone that has already been, if any zone, so like for example, I had this high of day zone, okay, and it was valid for yesterday, but since that has been ran through, we've already traded through that price. I remove it. If that's not accurate anymore, it's not accurate. I'm just simply remove it. Also, any drawings I had, I just like to get rid of those. Same with this one, light green zone. It's already been broken through, so we're gonna get rid of that, and we're just gonna make new levels where more accurate support is for today. Same with this one. And this one is a bit of a special case because this one has not fully been filled. Um, so in this case, you can really just keep it the same, but include the lower day zone, which once again is going to be from the close on this candle to the low. But we're also going to include just a little bit from this zone, a little bit more support right there. Beautiful. Um, and yeah, and then we're going to mark out the next support that I see, pretty obvious, is going to be an intraday zone, but it was from here to here, just the lowest body close, to the low. It's very repetitive. Drag that out to today. Same with this zone, drag that out to today. And then The next support that I see very clearly, we had like one bounce here, we had one bounce here, one bounce here. So I'm gonna mark it out from the lowest low to the wick, essentially, just like that, light green zone, beautiful. And then the high day zone, of course, simple high a day to the highest body close, very nice. And then also a little bit of resistance here that we had at the end of the day. I'm just gonna mark that out. That wick, yeah, because you see we came up, found resistance here, shot down. So we wanna keep that in mind for today. Wouldn't want to be taking a trade in that area. But this video is not really about going over the entirety of the strategy, more just about how I find support and resistance for the day. And then also, like, I'm gonna drag these zones out because this area has not been retested during New York session. I should mention that. Even if something has been, no, wait, yeah, sorry. If something has been chopped through in pre-market, literally doesn't matter to me. It only matters if it's been ran through during the New York session. So New York zones needs to be ran through in the New York session in order for it to be invalid. But this zone still has not been tapped into in the New York session. You see, we never came down here. So that is still very valid for me. Even though it went through it in pre-market, don't care about that. And same for this one. Same for this zone. Also hasn't been tapped into, so you can just drag that over, use that for today. Chillin'. Yeah, and then the next closest zone that I have would be this high day zone. It's not really a zone, it's more just like a penny because, we had the high a day. It's not really even a wick here. It's a really just simple line can get the job done. And that's probably all the levels we'll need for today on QQQ. Last thing you can add, or the first thing you can add, is obviously going to be, well, not obviously, but going to be the pre-market low and pre-market high, which was on this 415 candle. So yeah, basically pre-market just from 4 to 9:30. You can disregard all of the after hours session. It's like from 4 to 6, I think. Yeah, I think. Or 8. Maybe this is 8 p.m. actually. I don't know. But yeah, just disregard this. I don't take that into account. I'm just simply looking at pre-market. I wish I could remove that if I could, but whatever. Like on Weeble, I mean. But yeah, so that's complete. And the pre-market high and low, I don't mark with the zone. I just mark with levels, just a simple level. Like you don't even have to think about it. It's literally just marking off the highest and the lowest point from 4 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Pretty simple. And that is going to give us some resistance here, some support here, potentially, that we want to keep eyes on. But yeah, so that's it for QQQ. Now I'm going to get into SPY. I'm actually just going to mark out the pre-market high and pre-market low first, just to make it more simple. That's what I usually do. But once again, we can go into the zones. So you can just remove any drawings, don't really matter. But so yeah, this zone has been ran through a New York session, so we're removing it. This zone has been ran through New York session, so we're removing it. This zone has been half ran through, so we're going to include the part that hasn't been touched and still keep that as accurate support. The rest of the zone is going to be the lower day support, simple, from the body close to the low, and that's going to give us our previous day low zone. Yeah, and as you can tell, the zones are going to be very similar to QQQ, but yeah, in this case, once again, light green zone's been ran through a New York session, delete, gone. And then, so this is going to be the more accurate support from this low to that wick. Mark that out, drag that to today. And then this one's kind of interesting, but I'm just gonna mark it from this low to this wick. Good support there. Like you could, once again, like I would have originally had it like this, but this last candle is basically already going into that area. So that part's been invalidated pretty much for me. And this is the support that's left that we want to take count of. That is right, yeah. Okay, and then last thing, or well, not last thing, but we got now we're looking at resistance instead of support. Gonna be from the body close to the wick, and then the wick. Sorry, blanking. The wick to the close. Once again, it's literally just repeating the same thing again. So these are two different resistance. One's the previous day high, and then one we had a little downturn, and then came back up, found resistance here, shot down. But this white zone is going to be the most important. That's where we had the most rejection all day. Um, I think that's it. Well, other than that, you can drag the zones that haven't been tapped into yet. So like this one and this one that I have from the previous day. And that's probably gonna be all I need. Like if we do go lower, like you can always drag more zones throughout the day. That I have previously. But like yeah, I have like tons of zones that just haven't been tapped into that I'm ready. I already got them marked out. So yeah. Other than that, I think that's about it on SPY today. Should be good. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. Sometimes I miss things and I'll just go back in, and I'm always looking at the 15-minute chart on this side anyway, so it's like never gonna miss a zone. Never gonna miss a zone. But well, sometimes I do. But less than I used to. But what else? Yeah, okay, so last thing I'm going to mark out is IWM, which usually differs like a little bit more than QQQ and SPY would, but still very similar price action. So we're just going to mark out the pre-market high and the pre-market low. We're already starting to bounce off that today. Yeah, this zone has not been tapped into yesterday, so we're just going to drag that over. And then this zone has already been ran through a New York session. Delete. You can delete any drawings. This has already been ran through. This has already been ran through, and this has already been ran through. So you just delete all of it. We do not need that anymore. And then simple from the low body close to the wick. And then the next support that I'm seeing is from this wick to here. Very nice support there. And since we gapped down today, we're going to be looking for that to turn into resistance today, potentially. Or if we go back above it, then maybe we'll use it as support. Who knows? We shall see. But, yeah, other than that, the last zone I'm marking out is going to be this high day resistance. IWM's looking pretty easy for the day, actually. Just that high day resistance. Very clear. Same thing over and over. Buy close to the high. Just marking out any support or resistance that I see. And yeah, I mean, this zone hasn't been tapped into, so you can just drag that. Whatever this zone is from above, drag that in case we go that high. And we have this low. So that's probably all the zones we'll be needing for today. IWM, pretty simple. But yeah, overall, that is everything. That is all the zones I will be needing today, unless I find more later on. And that's how I mark them out every day. Just a very simple, repeatable process. So yeah, if anyone's watching, hope you enjoyed the video, and this will be also a good video for me to look back on a couple of years later, see any differences or stuff like that. So yeah, W video.